My name is Albert, and welcome to Unknown Facts. Today we're venturing into a place where the very air can be your enemy. A place where an invisible force, left behind by mankind, makes the Earth itself a threat. We are going to explore the most radioactive place on the planet. This isn't a jungle or a desert. The dangers here are silent and unseen. They linger in the dust, in the water, and in the ground beneath your feet. It's a journey into a landscape scarred by immense power, a true test of survival against a foe you can't see, hear, or smell. We will peel back the layers of history and science to understand this incredible, dangerous environment. We'll look at the raw power that was unleashed, and the consequences that remain decades later. It's about human ambition, scientific discovery, and the harsh lessons nature teaches us when we push the boundaries too far. Get ready to gear up and step into a world where every breath and every step matters in a way you've never imagined. Before we step across the threshold into this forbidden zone, I need your support for this expedition. If you find this journey into the unknown as fascinating as I do, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel bring more of these incredible stories to light. And don't forget to give this video a like. So, what is this invisible enemy we're talking about? What is radioactivity? Imagine an atom as a tiny, tightly wound ball of energy. Most atoms are stable. They're happy to just sit there holding their energy together. But some atoms are unstable. They're like a spring that's been wound too tight. They have too much energy, and they desperately want to release it to become stable. This process of releasing energy is what we call radioactive decay. There are alpha particles, which are like heavy, slow-moving cannonballs. They don't travel far and can be stopped by something as simple as a piece of paper. The real heavy hitter is gamma radiation. It's a pure wave of energy that can pass through skin, clothes, and even walls. When you think of radioactive places, a few famous names probably come to mind. Chernobyl, in Ukraine, is the most well-known. The 1986 disaster released a massive cloud of radioactive material across Europe. It has become a strange wildlife refuge where nature is reclaiming the abandoned city of Pripyat. Another major site is Fukushima, Japan. In 2011, a massive earthquake and tsunami caused a meltdown. The United States has the Hanford site in Washington state, where plutonium was produced for the Manhattan Project. It's considered one of the most contaminated places in the Western Hemisphere, but there is one location that stands out. It's less famous but, in some areas, even more radioactive than Chernobyl. It is a man-made lake, a toxic radioactive lake in the middle of the Kazakh steppe. This is the Chagan test site. Our journey takes us to the vast, empty plains of Kazakhstan, once part of the Soviet Union. This is the Semipalatinsk test site, also known as the Polygon. For 40 years, this was the primary testing venue for Soviet nuclear weapons. Over 450 nuclear devices were detonated here. Within this massive testing ground lies our target, Lake Chagan, sometimes called the Atomic Lake. Getting closer reveals the truth. The lake sits in a perfectly round crater with a high rim of excavated earth surrounding it. This is no natural formation. This crater was blasted into existence on January 15, 1965, by a 140-kiloton thermonuclear device. That's a bomb about 7 times more powerful than the one that was dropped on Hiroshima. When that bomb detonated, the intense heat, reaching millions of degrees Celsius, vaporized everything. The bomb itself, the rock, and the soil. This created a massive, superheated bubble of radioactive gas. As this bubble rose and cooled, the vaporized material condensed into tiny particles of dust and ash. This dust was infused with dozens of different types of radioactive isotopes. Each one decays at a different rate, measured by its half-life. Some isotopes have short half-lives of just 8 days. Others, like plutonium-239, have a staggering half-life of 24,000 years, longer than all of recorded human history. When these particles hit the cells in our bodies, they cause damage. It's like a microscopic hailstorm tearing through your DNA. Strontium-90 mimics calcium, so your body deposits it in bones and teeth. Cesium-137 mimics potassium and gets distributed throughout your soft tissues. The story behind Lake Chagan is a chilling example of Cold War-era ambition overriding common sense. The Soviet Union was locked in intense technological race with the United States. They launched Program Number 7, and the Chagan test was its first project. The goal was to prove nuclear power could be a tool for creation, not just destruction. The location was carefully chosen in the dry bed of the Chagan River, which only flowed in spring. The plan was to detonate the bomb deep underground but close enough to the surface to create a massive crater. They hoped the explosion would seal the rock below, making the crater watertight. On that cold January morning in 1965, the device was detonated with unimaginable force. It lifted 10 million tons of earth and rock into the air, creating a crater 400 meters wide and 100 meters deep. A massive mushroom cloud rose thousands of feet into the sky. Despite obvious contamination, the Soviets declared the project a success. They even filmed propaganda footage showing the Minister of Medium Machine Building taking a swim in the newly formed lake. Of course, this was a carefully staged stunt. The local population knew the truth. Animals that drank from the river downstream began to get sick and die. People in nearby villages reported a rise in cancers, birth defects, and other illnesses. They called it the Ghost Lake, a place of sickness and death. Walking on the crater rim today, a Geiger counter will scream, registering radiation levels hundreds of times higher than normal. The contamination has seeped into groundwater and spread down the Chagan River, creating a toxic legacy that persists to this day. Lake Chagan is a permanent scar, a stark lesson written into the landscape itself. Exploring places like Lake Chagan is more than dark adventure. It's vital remembrance and learning. These radioactive scars are our most important classrooms. Scientists who brave the radiation are gathering invaluable data about how radioactive isotopes move through ecosystems. This knowledge is essential for improving nuclear facility safety and waste storage. The stories of survivors are testament to human resilience. Their fight for recognition and medical care is a powerful call to action. We cannot walk away from our mistakes. We must face them, study them, and do everything we can to mitigate the damage. Ultimately, Lake Chagan stands as a silent radioactive warning. It tells us some forces are too powerful to be used casually, even for peaceful purposes. By venturing into these zones and telling their stories, we ensure the lessons are not forgotten. We must remember these places, not to dwell on darkness, but to build a safer, more conscious, and more sustainable future. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unknown.